Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth coming back at you with a new report today. Family, I hope you are all well and prospering and being safe out here in these streets full of devils. Okay. Yeah. Okay, tonight's report, family. Actually, before we do that, family, remember to smash the likes, share this report on all your social media, and be sure to be subscribed here if you appreciate the content here at One Brothas Mind. We're trying to provide helpful information and facts you need. Okay. With this report, family, we're gonna chop it up about the whole banking system, the global banking system, and a lot of really crazy financial banking system stuff going on here recently. Off top, family, it is One Brothas Mind's contention that at this point, and time is really running short, that at this point it is best that you remove approximately 90 to 95% of all your money out of these banks. Why? Because they're doing some really crazy stuff right now, family. Hold on. Here we go. They're doing some really crazy stuff right now here in the last 6 months, year, a few months, whatever you want to call it. And your money's just not safe there. And so on tonight's report, I'm going to share with you guys a collection of information that I believe here at One Brothas Mind basically should remove all doubt in regards to whether or not your money is safe in these banks. And I'm going to offer, toward the end, some potential solutions. We're going to chop it up on this. So we're going to start off, family. I know y'all saying, oh, KD Smooth tripping again. Don't, just ride with me on this. Okay? Really, ride with me. At the end of this report, re-ask yourself that question. Is KD Smooth tripping or are you tripping? Okay? Anyway, we're going to start this report off with I'm going to share with you guys a clip. It's a little lengthy clip to start this report off, but it's, in my opinion here at One Brothas Mind, the best clip in regards to what's going on over in China right now with their real estate banking nightmare that's going on right now. It's been going on for months, for quite some time. And I'm going to share with you guys, instead of just providing the link to this channel in regards to the absolute most outstanding report that I have came across on YouTube. I'm going to literally share with you guys a large, lengthy clip of it so you guys can get an understanding. This guy does a hell of a job. And just before we start that, I want you guys, this is the channel. I'm definitely giving him a hell of a shout out for this work. I couldn't have done this report, and most people couldn't have done this report that the Business Basics channel on YouTube has done, which is why it's wow. Anyway, that's why I'm going to share this report with you guys. And after the report, I got several other short reports and articles I want to share with you guys. And yeah, we're gonna get in. We're gonna dig into this one. Again, this is the whole purpose of this video is to provide you with current evidence of the frailty of the global banking system, and with that comes the frailty of the U.S. banking system. Okay, so we're going to jump into this report, family. Definitely find this channel in this first clip, extended clip that I'm going to share with you guys. It's going to be a little over 10 minutes long, but my God, he kills it on this report, and it really breaks down a lot of the details. There's other reports that do okay with it, but this report, dude, kills it on this one. So I'm going to, because I normally don't do, when I share clips, I only share small clips, but this report, it's like all of this information is needed information for you in his report, for you to fully understand what's going on, why it's important, and how it threatens the entire global banking industry. So we're going to jump in here with this report, and then we'll come back after I report and continue from there. Okay, family? Here we go. Let's get it going here. All right.
In the last few weeks, something similar has been happening in China that is scaring the CCP. Chinese citizens across the country took to social media to do something that has never been done before. Thousands of would-be homeowners pushed for a movement to stop paying mortgages on their homes, in an attempt to put pressure on the CCP and banks to treat them fairly. Protests broke out in multiple cities, and the crusade seems to be gaining more and more momentum each day. The CCP is so worried that it has already sent out tanks to maintain stability.
See that guy? That used to be me. Overweight, tired.
For the first time in more than 30 years, the CCP is fearing for its existence, and it all has to do with China's real estate bubble. According to one expert, the CCP sees this situation as a political protest, not a banking crisis. Government officials are extremely fearful about how this might turn out.
But one country could already be facing a recession, and that is China.
A massive protest over frozen bank deposits.
Hundreds gathered in Zhengzhou,
Tens of thousands of them have begun withholding payments.
demanding compensation. Before long, thousands of security personnel appeared,
accusing the local police of using violence against them.
They'd rush over by the hundreds, grab somebody and beat them and kick them, regardless of whether it was men, women, the elderly or children, even people with disabilities.
Big Chinese banks are at risk. Over $9 trillion in loans are at danger of defaults, And if the situation gets any worse, this could foretell the collapse of China and the CCP. This mortgage crisis isn't the only crisis the CCP is dealing with. As covered in my previous videos, zero-COVID policies and bank deposit scams in Henan pose a big risk to China's fragile economy too. But this mortgage situation is by far the biggest threat, as it affects trillions of dollars, involves some of the most important industries like banking and real estate, and influences millions of households in the country. According to a well-respected expert, this mortgage crisis could be 100 times worse than the 2008 financial crisis. So to keep the news under wraps, the CCP censors are working overtime to censor any articles and videos that spread the truth. Now, I have my suspicions that the CCP's bots have always been disliking my China videos in order to suppress it in the algorithm. So if you guys can just take a quick second of your time and tap that like button below, it helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, especially when covering topics that are critical of the CCP. Even though the protests started in July, the problems have been brewing for China's real estate market for decades. So, before jumping into how these protests are threatening the CCP's rule, let's first go over how the Chinese economy got to where it is now. Here in Uncle Sam's America, it's considered to be an important part of the American dream to own a home. But slowly, it's getting less popular among newer generations to do so because, well, it's not very affordable. China, on the other hand, is different. The importance of owning a house has only gone up in the past couple of decades. Real estate is one of the asset classes that the public trusts more than anything, and for marriage, and the amount of real estate you own is directly related to your social status in society. Considering all this, you can see why real estate prices have continued rising over time. If you want to learn more about the cultural and economic significance of real estate in China, Polymatter has a great video on this, which I will link below. There's a high demand for real estate because of all these factors. And coupled with incredible price rises in the past, you can see why everyone and their mother wants to buy a home. Kinda reminds me of the 2008 US housing market, where everyone wants to buy real estate because real estate prices are only going up. The rush to buy houses was so huge that the developers were selling out complexes before even breaking ground for construction. However, even after construction finished, apartments just sat there empty because they had owners but no habitants. Demand was high because everyone wants to buy their second or third home to get rich on the real estate boom, so supply increased drastically to match the demand. But a lot of these homes were just sitting empty, as owners were only buying these homes in hopes of price appreciation. Because other asset sectors weren't as accessible and developed, real estate was the only thing people invested in. Based on one data set, Chinese families had around 70% of their wealth in real estate. Yes, you heard that right, 70%. They're not much for diversification. Oh, just imagine if something happened to the real estate market. All right, I think I'm laying on the foreshadowing a little too thick.
The collapse of Chinese property giant Evergrande unfolds. Shares in the highly indebted company have fallen 80% this year. And
15 towers unfinished for 7 years. The developer bankrupt. These towers were recently brought down in Shanghai after 20 years of stalled construction.
Evergrande took full advantage of this boom in China's real estate market and became one of the largest developers in the country. At one point in 2018, they were actually the biggest real estate company in Asia. When people look at something that big, well, They kind of just assume it's all legitimate. Oftentimes, though, that's not really the case. I hope you guys learned that lesson after the 2008 crisis. If anyone had looked under the hood, they would have realized that some of the practices happening at Evergrande were far from appropriate. Now, due to the sheer scale of the company, a lot of practices were quite complicated, but here's my attempt at trying to simplify this. Remember earlier how I mentioned that FOMO into real estate was so bad that people were buying houses before construction even began? Usually, a company like Evergrande would lease a piece of land from the local government, then they would turn around and sell the houses that are supposed to be built there and receive full payment for the houses before even breaking ground. Companies would never have any issue selling out as the demand for real estate was so high. People were more than happy to take out mortgages and buy houses just in hopes of owning real estate someday in the future. Now, the big problem that starts here is that companies like Evergrande wouldn't usually use the money from the sale to start construction. No, instead they would use the money as down payment to buy even more land, so they can sell even more apartments for the future. Now, this is already a huge problem. This should not have been allowed in the first place. Any unbiased person can look at the system and figure out that this isn't gonna last. This is exactly the job of the CCP, but they passed on this responsibility to the local governments. And this is where another problem lies. Local governments were directly benefiting from these real estate pyramid schemes that companies like Evergrande had going on. You see, in China, one of the big ways local governments make money is by leasing land to developers, like Evergrande. This meant that the more risk these property developers took on, the higher the bids on this land that the government was leasing out. Around 50% of local government's revenue was coming from leasing out land. The same government that should be protecting its citizens from these risky practices is benefiting heavily from these so-called risky practices. This is a prime example of perverse incentives. We don't even need to get into the corruption that goes on around these land leases. This was one of the main reasons why China's real estate bubble has gotten so big. Regulators were always slow to step in because it was directly benefiting them. The CCP saw where things were heading and tried to get things under control by implementing the 3 red line policies for property developers. But it was a little too late.
The debt burden continues to weigh on China's Evergrande Group as its angry suppliers are protesting the developers' unpaid bills while its bondholders' patience has dissipated.
The shady practices don't just stop there either. Evergrande would list these houses as assets under their balance sheet to get more loans from the banks so they can finish construction. These houses were already sold to other people, so no matter what accounting magic you use, these can't be considered assets of Evergrande. The worst part is that Evergrande wasn't the only one pulling these shady tricks. Almost every real estate company in China was operating this way. The whole sector was over-leveraged to the teeth. Just like a Ponzi scheme, the only way to continue forever is if you continue growing forever. But you can't keep growing if people lose trust in Evergrande's ability to stay solvent. And I'm sure you guessed it by now, that's exactly what happened. Once the company misses one payment, chaos ensues. Early last year, one of Evergrande's subsidiary companies failed to make a payment on its loans, and people started looking deeper into its financials. This is when the house of cards started crumbling, and the news about contagions spread across the world.
Option.
The debt burden continues to weigh on China's Evergrande Group.
China's top real estate developer, Evergrande, is reeling under a financial crunch.
Meanwhile, in China, the debt crisis at Evergrande is only snowballing.
There's so many questions surrounding Evergrande.
In a notice circulating on social media, the suppliers have demanded payment from Evergrande.
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 As Evergrande's debt crisis deepens, small business owners and people waiting for homes to be completed are starting to despair.
These investors were lured in with various promises
to demand the developer to give them their money back. The protests made authorities nervous.
When the news got out that Evergrande could default on $300 billion worth of loans, panic spread throughout the economy. People also realized that this problem isn't limited to Evergrande. The whole real estate sector is over-leveraged, and it's starting to crumble. Chinese developers owed around $5.3 trillion in debt. When the CCP realized just how big the problem was, they decided to step in and soften the blow back in 2021. Ever since then, Evergrande and other real estate developers have been chugging along slowly with the help of the CCP. And by slowly, I mean like a snail's pace. Construction of buildings sold in 2019 are still not done. All the funds from new sales are basically going towards paying off companies' liabilities instead of actually finishing up projects. This is just one example of unfinished projects that had to be demolished because of problems from the delay in construction. Whenever owners of these houses would ask about construction delays, they were just met with excuse after excuse. Slowly, things just got to be too much. Some of these citizens had their whole life savings invested in these unfinished projects, and they just couldn't take it anymore. So, on July 1st, all of the homebuyers from a project in central China published a letter saying that they would stop paying their mortgage payments to the bank unless the construction restarts. Now, a project usually includes thousands of houses and are worth upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, it was just one project in a nation of 1.6 billion people, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But it didn't stop at just that one project. By the same evening, home buyers from another such project had announced the same mortgage boycott, and the movement started to spread across the nation. By July 12th, 100 projects had joined the boycott. And as of the writing of this script, over 300 projects across China are boycotting mortgage payments until construction resumes. Tens of thousands of people have willingly defaulted on their mortgages in hopes of getting the government's attention. People have also taken to the street to protest these construction delays. Currently, these 300 projects represent more than $100 billion of debt that China's big banks are holding. When you factor in that some major developers also defaulted last year on their debt, this is not a good sign for China's banking institutions. What's even more concerning for banks and the government is not just $100 billion in possible default, but the growing number of people who are joining in on the boycott. The CCP has already ordered banks and news organizations to stop publishing reports about mortgage boycotts. Party officials are doing everything they can to kill this news. These boycotts represent an existential crisis for Chinese banks. A crisis that has the potential to be 100 times worse than what American banks faced in 2008. One of the big differences between 2008 and the current situation in China is that the majority of these loans are collateralized by houses that are not yet built. So banks can't just repossess the house when someone defaults and cuts their losses. Banks are being forced to eat these losses, and if the defaults keep growing, there's a chance that big banks might fold. One of the big four state banks in China has already limited people's withdrawals. I'm sure most of you already know how the modern banking system works, but here's a quick overview for everyone else. Banks usually loan the money that depositors deposit and hope to earn interest on it to make a profit. Usually the reserve requirement is set by the central banks. Let's say that it's 10%. That means that whenever banks get $100 in deposits, they are only required to keep $10 in the vault, and they can loan out $90 and charge interest on it. So this is just a very simplified example, but these types of transactions happen millions of times over and over again in an economy, and that's basically how the modern banking system works. For every $100 in deposits, banks are able to create about $1,000 of money in circulation. Now, this system is pretty great. In the past century, a lot of economic growth is in part thanks to this fractional reserve banking. But the only way this system works is if depositors have trust in the bank's ability to keep their money safe. Now, if too many of these loans that banks are giving out become worthless, then that trust starts to erode. This is why the USA enacted strict lending regulations after the 2008 crisis. So banks are careful with who they lend to. Now, as more and more homebuyers are defaulting on their loans, Chinese banks are also at risk of losing the trust of the depositors. Putting limits on the withdrawals definitely does not help with building that trust. If too many people start pulling out their deposits from the banks, bank run happens and banks collapse because of it. This is where the big headache lies for the CCP. The Chinese economy is heavily reliant on its financial sector and the real estate sector. Real estate represents around 30% of China's GDP, while 7 out of the top 10 companies in China are financial institutions. This is why, as the news about these boycotts spread, the CCP held an emergency meeting with the banks to discuss the rising risk of these defaults. To help the struggling developers, the CCP is considering injecting more than $1 trillion into real estate companies so that they can finish off construction with these projects. Remember last year when the Evergrande news came out? The CCP was strictly against bailing out failing companies as they didn't want to promote risky business behavior in China. But now that they're realizing that this has the potential to tank the government, CCP officials are changing their tone when it comes to bailouts. The CCP has also stepped up the censoring around this topic, in hopes of stopping more people from joining the boycotts and protests. As mentioned earlier, the CCP sees this situation as a political protest, not a banking crisis. Government officials are extremely fearful about how this might turn out. I'm guessing they will do anything in their power to suppress any news around this topic. Usually my China videos are heavily disliked by Chinese bots to hurt them in the YouTube algorithm. So again, if you guys can take a second to scroll down and hit that like button, it means the world to me, as these videos, they take a lot of time to make. Currently, we don't have that much info as to what the CCP plans to do as the news is still developing, but as soon as I have more info, I will have a video out ASAP.
Okay, family. Yeah. So, as you see, family, there's a lot going on in China here in the last couple of years in regards to their banking industry. There's some, let's just say, some significant scamming happening over there. And so I wanted to give you guys that solid foundation of what's going on in China, how it's similar to the 08-09 subprime mortgage situation over here in the US, as well as how it's different. It's different because it's significantly larger. And two, as was mentioned in that report, in the US, you had physical real estate, physical houses that these loans were backed in. Okay? Over there, the homes are not completed. They're not even built, most of them. So, yeah, there's some real problems going over there. And what I need, the concept I need y'all to really absorb is if, when, and as those major banks in China fail. Okay, well, let me back up. All major banks around the world, at least the Western world, are connected financially, significantly connected. Okay, so if you have Bank USA come up with some problems and they can't afford to pay their bills, so to speak, then Bank of China, that's connected to the USA bank, that's not receiving its payment from the USA Bank, now it causes financial problems for the Bank of China, or, fill in the country name, especially when we're talking about the Western banking system globally. Okay? So all these banks are connected, just like it was in 0809, which is why the United States government jumped in. They let one bank fail, and then they realized, like, we want to let these banks fail, but we can't, because it not only affects and jacks up our banking system here in the U.S., but it jacks up all the other global. It's a domino effect. So we literally can't do it. And I know I was a big proponent. I was like, let them fail. Let them file the crooks. Let them burn them. But the reality was and is they're all connected, which is my point of sharing this report with you. Is as these banks fail in China, it's going to have a global banking effect that could work its way all the way back down to your bank and your money. Do you see that? And I keep telling people there's a lot of really jacked up financial banking system stuff going on. Somebody knows something, is my point. And here on your screen, it's more information and reports. Somebody, in my opinion, here at One Brothas Mind, somebody knows something. I've been telling people for a long time, the crash is coming. It is coming. I can't tell you when, but it's coming. And more entities, or banks, or investment firms, what you name it, more and more of them are doing more and more trickeration activity. Yeah, I said trickeration activities with money. One, to continue to make money, but two, in my opinion, some of these things are being done to protect money. And if you want to know what you should be doing with your money, your $75 you got in the bank, and don't trip. I ain't got number 55. I may only have 55, whatever. My point is to know what you should be doing with your money in the bank and how you need to be protecting it. It's a good idea to watch the major investors and money entities. What are they doing? Okay. And here on your screen is one of the things that jumped off here in the last, say, 12, 18 months or so, where, a lot of y'all are already aware, where a lot of investment firms and investors started moving their money out of the stock market, because the stock market is real suspect right now. They're moving their money out of the stock market and buying up homes, especially a lot of the new homes, like the housing communities. They're literally buying up the entire community, outbidding regular single family home buyers, And one, is causing a problem for just regular citizens like you and I, regular families, to be able to find homes to buy and do as normal, or at least has been happening for decades. Because families they find a home, they go to bid on it, and then they get outbid by investors or investor entities. And they like, okay, and which is continuing to drive up the price or prices of the homes, which eventually, the higher the prices go up on home buying, the more single families cannot afford to even compete, which then has another domino effect to where you got, because of this issue, you got a lot of single families that would have been buying homes or would have bought a home. They can't find homes that they can buy now, so they have to continue or become renters and flood the rental markets in all cities across the United States. So now you got a flood because of this domino effect. You got a flood of renters, especially people who say they were already homeowners and they were thinking they were gonna do what in the U.S. people normally do. They own a home for a while, live in it for a while, and then when the value goes up on it, they flip it, they sell it, right? They want to get that equity out of it. They want to get that profit out of it. Okay. And then they normally will go and just buy another home and basically repeat the same cycle. But now, in the last 2 years or so, the same process has been interrupted. Whereas a lot of homeowners have sold their homes and now they got their cash and they're like, okay, we're just going to find another one real quick and buy it. And they go to try to buy it. And now they're being outbid, like I said, by these investors entities. Okay. So now they can't find homes in the areas where they would prefer to live because they're being outbidded. So now that's forcing them back into the rental market as renters, which is flooding the rental market, which is raising the cost of renters, because now you have home buyers that have significant or let's say potential home buyers that have significant money in their pocket available and resources, but they can't find the homes that they actually prefer to buy, or they're getting outbidded for them. So now they're going, okay, we got to get a rental. So now they're flooding the rental market, and they have more resources available, so they can afford to pay higher rents. So landlords are like, let's raise the rent on the tenants I currently have and get them out of here so I can raise the rents further and get these new rentals or renters that would have bought homes. I can get them to pay me a whole lot more money per month for rent and make more money on my rental unit, which is pushing the renters that were already there out. And now, I mean, it's just domino after domino. Now they're struggling to find affordable rents, and a lot of people who've been renters for a long time, they can't find affordable rentals in the areas where they currently live. They're literally having to relocate outside of, if they live on the west side of town, they got to go all the way to the east side of town to try to find some affordable rental units that's still within their budget, and they may not find them there. They got to, sometimes in certain cities, they got to go outside of the city. And doing all that shuffling around, especially families with children, that changes schools, that causes problems with your job. You work in the city on the west side, but now you've had to relocate because of all this to the east side. Now you got a crazy long commute. I mean, what do you do with your children, especially if they're really young? If you have your children in daycare, what school you have your children, you gotta change your schools, change daycares, and then you still gotta get to work every day. Can you actually make it to work every day? Whereas it may have taken you 20, 30 minutes to drive to work from where you were living until they raised the rent on you. Now you across town. During rush hour traffic, it may take you an hour and a half to get to work every day, which completely, and that's just one way. And that completely changes your dynamic of how your family operates. You know, and don't even mention the parents that, you know, were still or had to pick up their children. You had to transport your children to and from school. Now remember, we got schools all got bus driver and bus shortages. So, I mean, man, it's insane what's going on. And again, it's just a bunch of dominoes. Okay? So again, like I said on your screen, investors are buying up a significant percent. In this report, it's 20%. That's huge. In the U.S. housing market, that's huge. Okay? And it says there, investors scooped up 9.5% of homes in April alone, and that percentage is up or increased 64% from the same period or April of 2019. That's crazy. This is the exact domino effect that's happening to you and I. Okay? And it's mainly because the investors, of course, they're moving their money out of investments, out of the stock market. They got more money to work with. So, you know, a few extra $5,000 or $10,000 in regards to a bid or $20,000 on a house, that's nothing to investors, where that makes or breaks your normal family home buyer like you and I. We can't just throw another $10,000, $30,000 on our bid like that in most cases, or more. You see how that works? So if you're wise, you're starting to ask, you should have been already asking yourself the question, why are investors doing it? One, of course, is to make money, but with everything that's going on over in China and some other things I'm going to show you here in a moment, a lot of investors are doing this because they know with the volatility of the banking industry right now, that's going to be around for a while. And I ain't even mentioned the inflation and supply chain, just the entire financial system of the world is seemingly collapsing, y'all. Okay, so they're realizing, they're like, well, if it's gonna collapse, potentially the safest place for my money to be is in physical assets, like real estate in this example. If I own a bunch of houses, and that's where my money is, if the financial system collapses, okay, fine. Mama, I own these houses and these properties over here. So once it collapses, whenever the whole collapse get worked out and everything, and the repaired financial system restarts, all I gotta do is then resell my homes, my real estate, my properties, and then I got all my money back. My money, you see that? I still got my money. Whereas, in contrast, if your money was literally in the banking industry or in these banks and there's a collapse, you stand to lose your money. And y'all saw, again, y'all saw how it's happening in China with the people with their accounts in the banks with Evergrande. And at a certain point, a lot of those banks are just telling people, boom, you can't get your money no more. Not until we say you can. That's number one. And then in addition to that, some of those banks, I don't believe it's in this report, but if you do some more research on the China banking issue, you'll find some of the banks have literally told some of the account holders that have their life savings in these banks. Some of those banks have told them, okay, your account has been modified. It's no longer a savings or a checking account. It's now, what do they call it? Oh, man. It's basically turned into an investment account that they can no longer withdraw from. It has to just sit there. basically, the banks that have done that in China, they've basically just stolen the people's money. And they're using that money and holding on to these people's money to help try to stay afloat, to keep the bank to stay afloat. Because again, you saw a video, you saw the people out there, they're trying to withdraw their money. Give me my money, man. But banks is like, nope. Now, just imagine that happening here in the U.S. And it will happen if and when this banking system collapses, y'all. The only difference is in the U.S., the people are going to respond in a far worse situation or with a worse response. Why? Because in the U.S., that Second Amendment is there. And take some people's money if you want to. Go on ahead. But even that threat is not a big enough threat to stop a banking system collapse and therefore the freezing and capture of your money. No, you. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you. Your money could get locked up. You may or may not get it back. Okay? So that's my point here. As I said, with my contention here, take 95% of your money out of these banks so that if and when there is a collapse here, you got most of your money with you. Keep enough money in the bank for you to be essentially function or to handle your essentials, pay your main bills, this and that, but everything else, take it out. And then if there is a significant purchase that you are looking to make, that day, swing by your bank, drop that amount of money, redeposit it into your bank, pull off through the drive-through from the bank, get your phone out, make your purchase or make that payment, and it's in your account, and then it's out, and then move on. Okay? Now, what you do or how you keep your money that's with you, that's your decision to make, your choice to make. Make it as secure as you can make it. Don't bury it. Y'all, some of the other things, because paper money actually deteriorates in certain environments. But you can put it in the freezer, go old school. Look, some of y'all that are young, listen, go ask your grandmother where they used to keep their money. What are some of the ways they used to keep their money here around the house and stuff? Go talk to them. There's the reasons they did this stuff, y'all. Those reasons and the opinion here at One Brothas Mind have returned. Okay? So let's move forward. I got another clip I want to share with you guys. It is much shorter, but it's further information on just the crazy trickeration that is happening here in the U.S. Let's focus on the U.S. now. The crazy trickeration. Check this out, y'all, and we'll come back and chop it up.
For more than a decade, U.S. Bank pressured its employees to open fake accounts in their customers' names to meet unrealistic sales goals. That is according to the feds, forcing the Minnesota-based bank to pay tens of millions of dollars in fines. Kaya Edwards joins us now with what this means for the company moving forward and how to protect your accounts. Kaya?
Yeah, Lauren, if this case sounds familiar, it is. It's deeply similar to the sales practices scandal uncovered at Wells Fargo. And finance professor Andrew Whitten says what happened to Wells Fargo after it was fined may also happen now to U.S. Bank.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau says for over a decade, U.S. Bank knew its employees were taking advantage of its customers by misappropriating consumer data to create fictitious accounts.
Once you open those accounts, they all have fees. So this is a way of boosting fee income.
Carlson School of Management finance professor Andrew Whitten says the $37.5 million in fines and penalties the bank must pay is likely just the beginning.
Wells Fargo was fined $185 million. If you look at Wells Fargo, The fine from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was the tip of the iceberg. There were billions of dollars of fines on top of that and litigation. So even if U.S. banks' scope of this fraud was smaller, everyone's going to be looking at them now that they hear about this.
CFPB says U.S. Bank will also have to refund customers any fees they paid for the fake accounts.
Now, in a lot of institutions, they would tell you, or maybe they send out an email and you don't look at it.
So it's worth asking U.S. Bank if your info was used to create an account. Its headquarters are here in Minneapolis, but a spokesperson was not available for an interview Friday. Instead, the company did what banks do. Sent a statement. It says the settlement is related to legacy sales practices involving a small percentage of accounts dating back to 2010. Since 2016, the bank has made process and oversight improvements that have been effective in addressing these sales practices concerns.
The action by CFPB closes out a 5+ year investigation. We are pleased to put this matter behind us.
I'm sure they would like to put it behind them. The question is whether other government agencies and possibly class action lawyers will.
Considering the Wells Fargo and U.S. Bank scandals appear to have happened over around the same time period, Winton says it would not be surprising if we discover later it was happening within other large banks, too. Lauren?
Kaya, thanks. For more than a decade, U.S. Bank...
Okay, family. Yeah. So, as you see, there's a whole lot more going on. Even in the U.S., there's a lot of trickeration going on in the banking industry. I got more for you. I ain't even halfway done. I got more for you. When I get done, like I said, you tell me if KD Smooth's tripping. All right? There's a lot of craziness going on. Greed, just usury. If you don't know what usury is, look it up. I actually got a video on it here at One Brothas Mind Channel where I break down what usury is and that it is a sin, what it is, why it's in place, and it's rampant today. It's literally rampant. In fact, it's connected to the newest report where your boy Biden issued the debt relief for the student loan crap, which was practically a drop in the bucket. But all that debt, the student loans that most people got are trapped in student loans, not KD Smooth. I ain't never had that. I didn't get tricked by that one. It's usury. It's literal usury. Again, go to One Brothas Mind playlist channel. Go down, find the usury video. Definitely check that out. It breaks it all down on what usury is and why it's sinful and how it's against y'all, okay? But I got some more for y'all. There's a lot more going on. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Let's talk about this right quick. Y'all see it on your screen. In March this year, y'all boy Biden and the U.S. the Biden created an executive order. You see the number on your screen. They call it ensuring responsible development of digital assets. But many people are believing that this is the primary origin of the plan to transition the United States to a digital currency. Okay? Now, especially for my young listeners, y'all may be saying, okay, what's the problem? We got all kind of digital money applications. I mean, Bitcoin, all your little digital cards, your PayPals, your this. I'm gonna touch on those in a minute as well. So what's the big deal? Well, one of the major problems with digital currency is if it's all digital, like your PayPal, your fill in the blank card, if you got an account with them, whatever money you have in there, they can press a button and instantly you no longer have money or access to your money or can use your money, whether it's on purpose or a mistake. You say, well, that's the same way with the banks. Exactly, which is why Katie Smooth is telling y'all, get 95% of your money out of the banks now before more people realize this truth. Okay? Once enough people realize this truth, the front of the bank is going to look like what you saw in the first video, the long video clip, with the Chinese people sitting outside the front of the bank. Except there's probably going to be a lot of smoke and a lot of loud popping sounds going on here in the U.S. with people with their little Second Amendment rights. They Second Amendment rights. They not going to just stand there with signs in the U.S. So y'all, before the bank runs happen, go ahead and get 95% of your money out of these banks so you have it, so you ain't got to be out there in all that madness, because it's not going to be safe. Okay? And you can go ahead and start building the habits, the new habits and adjustments that you need to have to utilize your money and do the things you need to do a little bit differently with you having the money, your money with you. Okay? But this digital currency, that's the point. And a lot of y'all already know where it's going. If they make us the government in all U.S. banking, just focus there, becomes a digital currency like they have in China. But if it all becomes digital currency and anybody can just press a button and poof, your money's gone, or poof, you can't access your money, you can't use your money, you literally have the financial foundation for the mark of the beast system. Okay? So if you think, or if you thought over the last 2.5 years or so, with what we went through in the U.S., with the Predator, that thing that's taken out over 1 million people, deleted over 1 million people in the U.S. and many more are globally. If you thought what the U.S. government did in their new rules that they tried to force people into, that basically controlled for many people whether or not you still had a job or not, that forced ooh-wee here at One Brothas Mind, we call that thing they try to force everybody to get to keep working, we call that the ooh-wee. If you think that was bad, which it was, in regards to how it affected whether or not you were still going to be able to work and make money, imagine how bad it's going to be if they didn't even got to go through that. They can just press a button on the keyboard and your money gone. You don't have access to your money. You can't use your money. For whatever reason, system failure or whatever other reason, political, or you on the terrorist, whatever reason they want to come up with, they can just press a button. Boop. Your money gone. Again, many people believe that is the foundation, financial foundation for the mark of the beast system, because you're not going to be able to buy and sell, according to scripture, without the mark. Okay? So this executive order, they're already working on this, y'all. They've been working on it for a while, but they just actually announced the executive order. Okay, and here in March this year. Family, y'all better, man, are y'all paying attention? Okay, so I got another short video clip I want to share with you guys. Let's see here. Oh, before we do that, again, family, remember to please smash the like, share, and make sure you're subscribed if you appreciate the content here at One Brothas Mind. Help us build this channel here. But so a lot of y'all, like I just mentioned, I was saying, well, we got digital money already with all these on your screen. Yup. Stop using them things. I've been telling people to stop using these things. Get away from them now. Build the habit of not using this stuff now. One of the reasons is because for some of y'all that know, the U.S. government announced January 1st, all these things, no matter whatever yours is name, it ain't your name, yours ain't on the screen, it doesn't matter. Any of them, all of them. They are required to report all of your transactions over $600 each year to the IRS. That was just a new rule they just made up. Poof, here we go. Because they realized, the government knows and realized that a lot of people were doing a lot of business, a lot of moving monies around and making money, if you will, under the table or outside of the tax system, but with using these card systems. So they shut that down quick. So yeah, a lot of y'all about to get busted. Y'all don't believe fat meat is greasy. Go ahead. You think I'm playing? You like you a barber. You got your own pull up, whatever it is you running, and you using these. They gonna report all your stuff to the IRS and you go ahead and file your taxes this coming year and let the numbers don't match up. Let what you report and what they report don't match up. See what happens. Tell y'all, stop using these things. You say, well, what are we supposed to use? What are you supposed to do then? People lived and operated before these cash cards? Which is my point. Go back to using cash. How about money orders? Can you say cashier's check? Yes. It's not as convenient. That's the whole point. These cash card things, this digital currency stuff is much more convenient, but it is a trap. It is a trap to get you to lull you to sleep, using it, enjoying the conveniences while you just giving up your security of your money. Boop, one button, your money gone. And that's not to even mention, because you don't see very many reports in the news about it, but all these cards, all these places, man, they got hundreds of thousands of people that they have literally stolen people's money. And people have to get attorneys and file lawsuits to sue these jokers if they can afford to try to fight to get their money back. And all these little card places, oh, well, we had there was a technical error, and they just move on. They ain't really no penalty to them. Doesn't really hurt them if you sue them and prove that your money is your money. They just go, okay, here's your little money. All right, go on. Meanwhile, they got the whole gang of people outside in the back still holding on to these other people's money. Stealing these other, man. Go back to using cash, money orders, cashier's checks, things of that nature. I know it's inconvenient. We know, but your money, if you got it with you, is safer with you than with these banks and these digital currency fools. Okay? All right, let's move on. Well, before we do that, I see here. Well, let's just go ahead. Let's go and jump into it. I don't know if y'all heard, but just in the last couple of days, when I told you, you pay attention to what large financial investors and wealth holders, what are they doing with their money? Well, this report that you see on the screen has just jumped out in the last couple of days. It's It's not necessarily hit mainstream media yet. So take this information with a grain of salt, but I do want to share it with you guys, and because if this is true, okay, if this is true, this is another major piece to look at as to what major money holders, investors, what are they doing with their money? And then in the report, basically it's saying that the Pope ordered all of the Vatican's monies to be moved back, all of Rome's money basically moved to the Vatican Bank. And you say, well, why? Is there something about to happen? Was the Vatican or the Roman money from the Catholicism, was it at risk out in other banks other than the Vatican Bank? It's a similar move. They're basically, if this is true, they're moving their money and bringing their money home with them, which is exactly the same move that Katie Smooth is telling y'all to do now. 95%. Just keep enough money in your account to handle your essential reoccurring functions. Other than that, the rest of your savings and whatnot, get that out of there. They ain't paying you no interest on that money anyway. But again, this report, it just popped off last couple of days. It's not being covered or reported by any mainstream media, so take this report with a grain of salt. But I did want to share it with you guys in case it turns out to be true. Yeah, it's another example that you need to learn from, family. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's go with our last clip here, because some of y'all going, well, if I can't do the digital cards, we can't put our money in the banks and whatnot, well, I'm gonna put my money in a black bank, right? So black owned banks, I got something for you. All right, so let's try to get this. Give me a moment, and we're gonna chop it up after this video report here. So let's try to get this working. Let's see if this is still gonna work here.
Now to a CBS 2 investigators' ProPublica investigation that focuses on a small bank on Chicago's South Side. It's one of several under the jurisdiction of federal right now, but customers are particularly concerned about this bank.
It's the last black-owned bank in Chicago. In fact, it's the last one in the state. CBS 2 investigator Dorothy Tucker goes undercover to expose the bad banking practices, causing some customers to worry they'll lose their homes.
As a devoted daughter, Sharon Stewart carries on her late mother's commitment to support the last black bank in Chicago. CBS 2 was there with hidden cameras on a recent visit.
It was a sense of pride. They invested in the community, and African Americans could get mortgages.
Illinois Service Federal Savings, ISF, had been supporting the community since 1934. But as big banks opened branches in black neighborhoods, over time, ISF, along with others, saw their customer base decline. But nothing hurt as much as this.
Now it's official, we are in a recession.
Customers defaulted on loans. Foreclosures skyrocketed. By 2015, ISF was under a federal consent order. What did that mean? The bank was in danger of closing and needed a savior. It thought it found one in 2016 in Dr. Papa Kwesi Ndum.
Group Ndum has announced the completion of a transaction to acquire a bank, not here in Ghana, but in the United States of America.
The wealthy African owned a bank in Ghana with 170 branches and had agreed to pump nearly $9 million into ISF.
It provides us with an opportunity to extend our services and take advantage of the huge African American and the general banking population.
Under new ownership, ISF became GN. For Stewart, the name is not the only thing that changed.
This is my receipt.
For her mortgage, handwritten.
It's like the Flintstones. That's what I call it.
This Stone Age paper system is why Stewart pays her mortgage in person.
I always write the address, my mother's name.
She wants proof she paid.
The check number,
She doesn't trust the bank's record keeping, and if anybody has a good reason not to, it's Stewart.
I always cry when I think about my mother and what they did to her.
Here's what they did. In 2018, GN Bank sold the mortgage on this house, her mother's house, along with many others, to York Properties. It just so happens that the chairman of GN Bank also manages York Properties. Stewart had no problem with the transfer until this. 3 years later, a letter from lawyers with 4 frightening words. You are in default.
I was fearful first.
Fear turned into anger after a series of text exchanges with the bank manager. Stewart explaining the notice is erroneous. The bank manager insisting she had not been paying. Stewart adamant GN took her payments.
I told them that I think you're trying to force a default.
And of all things, the bank manager demanded the customer provide proof, receipts. Little did he know.
I have receipts going back. I have all the receipts.
$60,000 worth. The bank backed off.
I was not going to let someone take my mother's property.
Anybody who saves all her receipts is not the kind of person to take a false accusation lying down. Stewart went straight to the feds.
I sent them all of this stuff.
Turns out she wasn't the only GN customer complaining. These are just a few of the more than 20 complaints since Indom took over in 2016. And that's not all. Under the leadership of the very man who was supposed to save the bank, in 2020, it happened again. The feds dropped another consent order.
We're doing a story on some complaints from customers.
We were there when bank regulators showed up.
I'm sorry, I can't talk to you.
This new order cites some new concerns.
The consent orders also list concerns with the bank's management, concerns that the bank's managers have conflicts of interest.
The comforting news, says the former bank regulator, GN is financially stable. But the uncomfortable truth.
Supervisors appear to believe that something has to change.
Robert Jansen is also looking for changes at the bank.
Since GN took over, it's been it's a downhill slide.
One that forced Jansen to take drastic measures. Every month, he hits the road for a 2-hour drive from his home in Marseilles
110 miles.
To the bank in Bronzeville.
110 back.
Just to make sure.
My mortgages are paid and that I have the receipts to prove it.
Again, the bizarre system with paper receipts.
Each one of these pieces of paper is a mortgage.
In proof, GN got his money. Because like Stewart, Jansen doesn't trust the bank to keep accurate records. Our hidden cameras captured the paper transaction.
I'm not losing my property for anybody.
Jansen is just looking for assurance the bank will take care of its customers.
My name is Dorothy Tucker from Channel 2.
We went looking for Indom to get his response to customer complaints and bank regulators' concerns.
I have been calling. I've been trying to reach him.
We even checked out a GN office outside of D.C. No luck there, no luck here.
He hasn't been here for a week now.
He hasn't been here for a week?
Yeah.
I want to see the bank succeed.
Jansen and Stewart may be unhappy with the bank's practices, but the last thing they want is for the now last black bank in Chicago to close.
In order to satisfy the regulators' concerns, GN Bank needs to improve its management.
Sure, we want this to be a successful bank. That's a historical bank. Historical.
Dorothy Tucker, CBS 2 Investigators.
All right, family. Yeah. So, again, a lot of y'all listening to this information, you still won't think it's a good idea to so-called put your money in a so-called black-owned bank, too. I'm not saying this is all black-owned banks. Some of them are ran really well. But they have, like, as exposed in this report, black-owned banks have unique issues, just like black people in America. We have unique issues that affect us primarily or only affect us. They struggled with their customer base. They lost customers, and during the subprime mortgage crash, y'all seen the report. It pretty much wiped that bank out until a new buyer came in. So, and they still, y'all seen the report, man. So again, family, I'm showing you guys banking problems or financial system problems from the number one and the number two global financial markets in the world. And this is just scratching the surface, y'all, of the craziness and the scams that they're running and the things that they're doing to people. All because of greed. Okay? And again, as I mentioned earlier in the report, you go, well, you know, y'all saying, well, Katie Smooth, what can you do? You stuck. If your money is digital or it's in the bank, you're stuck. We all stuck. No, not necessarily. Like I said, there are some things, some actions. If that report from the Pope proves to be true, then there are some actions, some steps you can take to try to insulate yourself from what many believe is the coming financial system crash. And like I mentioned before, with the investors, they're moving their money out of the stock market. They're actually buying real estate. So if they own a bunch of homes, if the banking system collapses, if it collapses, you still own those homes. You got the deed on them. That's not going to change. The banks could all collapse. The whole system could fall. And then however long it takes for them to restart or reset up or whatever it is they got to do. When a new banking system is restarted and is back functioning, whether it's digital or not, if you or if those investors own those homes, all they got to do is then go sell those homes because they have the deeds. They can go sell them and pull their money or liquidate their money right back out of those homes. Do you see that? Same thing. A lot of investors they're going crazy. They've always said it. Put your money, get some gold, get some silver. Call it the real currency. And there's even some people that are saying this is pushing Bitcoin with that as an alternative place to have money. Here at Katie Smooth, here at One Brothas Mind, Katie Smooth I'm not a proponent of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is one of the major catalysts to spark all this madness. Yes, many people are making crazy money off Bitcoin. I get it. But I can't fully explain it. Something ain't never set right with me with Bitcoin in regards to a spiritual aspect. It's a hustle. It's a scam. It's like the new pyramid scams, but it's digital. Feel how you feel. I know if you're making good money off of it, you like, well, you tripping. Okay. All right. All money ain't good money. I tell you how they used to say it. All money ain't good money. Okay. But people are suggesting to put their money in gold, silver, and some even Bitcoin as a way to try to hide or have their money be more secure. Also, same thing, hard assets, physical assets. People are buying land, just like they're buying houses in real estate. People are buying land because, again, the same thing. After the collapse, you still own that land because you got the deed to it. And so once everything restart up, however it restarts up, all you got to do is resell that land and liquidate. You got your money back in your hand, in your bank or digital account or whatever it ends up being. In addition, same thing. Smart people are investing in inventory. On your screen, the bottom right, you see a significant food storage, SHTF type situation, storage. You know, yeah, all these things are perishable, but if you keep it in proper rotation, this stuff will last a long time. You're talking a few years. And if there's a bank crash, and this is how your basement or whatever room in your house is set up, and people can't use cash, right? But guess what people will still barter for? Supplies they need. And this is just on a small scale, but even there's some, as far as large investors or people with significant money, people are just literally investing in inventory of whatever kind. Things that are needed or would be needed, especially during a crash. If this room was full of alcohol, full of liquor, you know how valuable a room like this full of liquor would be for you during the crash? You got your own under the table liquor store, right? So, I mean, whatever, cigarettes, you can fill it up with the cigarettes. Same thing, coffee, spices, you name it. Just go down the list. What are machinery or, whatever it could be. Inventory is the point that a lot of people are putting extra money in because it's physical assets that are still going to have significant value. Whereas, again, many people say, well, during a financial collapse, cash money is not going to be any good. That's not 100% true. The truth is your cash money is still going to be good for a short period of time, whether that's a couple of days, few weeks, whatever, because people during the collapse, people are still going to feel and believe that your cash dollars, they're going to fix the system and your cash dollars are still going to be usable and still hold their value and what have you. So people will still be buying and selling stuff using cash. That's why your cash money with you is going to be important. And an additional note, if you got your cash money with you and all that good, get you a certain amount of it, not all of it. And I say like maybe about 10% of it. Make sure you get 5 to 10% of it in small bills. Okay, 1s, 5s, and 10s, because you don't want to be running around having to pay for everything with a 20. You trying to buy something that's only worth $5 and all you got is nothing but 20s. Now you just giving away money. Because people ain't going to have, during a financial collapse, most people ain't going to have, you ain't going to find correct change nowhere. So make sure you got some small bills. That's an additional nugget from Katie Smooth here. But yeah, I mean, y'all see it. There's in any other real physical asset options, artwork. If you balling like that, where you got some real, can afford to buy real valuable art that holds its value, another physical asset. Now, some of y'all thinking cars and, clothes and shoes, your Jordan collection, all that. Family, a lot of stuff is not going to hold its value during hard, crazy economic times or collapse. People can't eat Jordans, but this person on the bottom, okay, which do you think will be more valuable? Look at the image on your screen, the bottom right. This person's supplies and inventory, or replace this picture with somebody that has a whole basement full of Jordans. During a financial collapse, which of the two do you think will be more valuable? It's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. Or should be. Pookie, stop it. Stop it, Pookie. Stop it, Pookie. Ain't nobody eat no Jordans. You can't live off of no Jordans. Okay? So, yeah. So this is some of the things you need to be looking into and looking at, family, as ways to potentially put your money in a position that may be more secure than in the banks or even at home with you. Okay? So what's on your screen, family? This, just like it's happening in China, them people said it would never happen. It ain't gonna never happen. Yeah, I guess what's they go into the bank doors is locked, and this is what's happening. They can't get their money. And insufficient funds, or the bank's closed, or whatever. It can and it will happen here in the U.S. Okay? In fact, did y'all hear just the other day? I thought I had, let me see here. No, I didn't. I thought I had put in, and I forgot to include it in the report, the SNAP or EBT system went down nationwide just this Sunday on the 28th. The whole system shut down for about 5 hours on Sunday the 28th of August. Google it. Yeah, people couldn't go. No food, you can't buy your stuff. Especially those people that need the help the most. Yeah, I did a short report on it. Go to One Brothas Mind, check it out. Y'all, there's significant evil, satanic level evil that's happening in the global financial system. This report, I focused on the China issues that's going on there, but y'all remember, it wasn't but a few years ago in 2008, 2009, it was the U.S. banking system with a satanic trickeration and greed. So what's the difference? The Chinese one, what's happening in China is just way larger. And if y'all remember, definitely want to make this point. If y'all remember, like I said, in the subprime mortgage problem here in the U.S. government stepped in and stopped the collapse of the banks so it would not affect the global banks and global financial system. Okay? That was the main reason why they did that. Here in China, we've already, just over the last 2.5 years, went through something that was happening, as many believe, in China, that the Chinese government did not do or handle properly there, nor inform the rest of the world properly in an attempt for the rest of the world to get ready to be able to secure itself, to be prepared for it. And what happened? Boom. Again, over 1 million people and counting have been deleted from how the government in China handled that situation. That was a medical or a health situation, right? This is a financial health or financial security situation that's currently going on in China. And what is the Chinese government doing? Are they handling it in a way to resolve it, fix it, before it affects the global financial system, the global banking system? You want to wait on them to do that? You want to believe in your boy Xi Jinping, that they handling their business over there, even after they've already went through a situation that spread globally and wiped out in the U.S. over 1 million plus people? You still believe in that government over there? Come on, man. So there's many people, you can say they tripping or whatever. There's many people like, hey, it's not if with the financial system and banks in China, it's when. Some people are like on a countdown of just a certain short number of days. Some people give it a few months, whatever. Hey, so let's say if there's drop and blow up or crash in say 60 days, and then the dominoes, boom, boom, the U.S. financial system, the ripple effects hit, and then all of a sudden you get a text message on your phone from your bank talking about you can't come get your money, no all withdrawals are restricted until further notice. You gonna wish you had took heed to the report here at One Brothas Mind and the reports that others are making, trying to share this information with you. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, y'all. Y'all let me know what you think on this report. I really tried to be real detailed with this report, because you can do a bunch of individual reports on this stuff, and it's a lot of times you still can't see it. You got to step back even further and do a big overview like we've done here today to really get a grasp of what's going on and the level of insecurity in the banks and in the financial global industry. And again, salute to the YouTube channel Business Basics for that first extended clip. Definitely go there. That guy is doing some hellified work and providing really good information that I would strongly encourage you. I don't agree with everything, but the value of his reports and information far outweigh whatever you may find that you don't agree with. Okay, at least that's what I've found thus far. So salute Business Basics. Keep doing what you're doing. One Brothas Mind supports you, and y'all check him out. In addition to that, family, y'all let me know what you think. What y'all thinking now? Y'all sitting back? You didn't finish this report now? Is Katie Smooth crazy? Or is there some other stuff that's really going on and you need to really make some adjustments to secure yourself financially, to secure your money? Okay? And if the banks crash and shut down, okay, you can't get it from the bank. You ain't gonna be able to draw it out of your investments either. Your investment accounts, your retirement account, you ain't gonna be able to get it from none of it, because that's all bank. All those are accounts held at different banks. Okay. Again, family, recommendation here, One Brothas Mind. Get about 95% of your money out of the banks. Now, I mean, we already have withdrawal limits. What is it, like $10,000 max withdrawal? Wait, how you gonna tell me I can only withdraw a certain amount of my money? They already doing it. Go get your money. If you got to go back multiple times, that's great, but go back multiple times. Keep withdrawing your money. Get it out of there. Get 95% out of it. Figure out how to keep it safely. How you gonna keep it safely with you, and ride it out. Adjust your life to operate within that setup. Okay. So that when this crash does happen, teach your children this same process. To say Katie Smooth is 30 years ahead of time on this. Okay. Well, if you've taught your children and trained your children with this information, and it happens in their life, and they're already set up, they already operating this way with most of their money with them, guess what? You just help save and protect your child even when you're gone. So it doesn't matter when it happens. It's about being prepared when it happens. Okay? Again, y'all let me know what y'all think on this. Y'all agree? If you have some additional helpful recommendations, drop them in the comments. Y'all let me know. Let's chop it up. Let's see what it do. Make it do what it do. That's what we're here for, to try to provide and collect information that we all need to be able to protect ourselves. And the whole idea, like I said, y'all talking about, I'm gonna put my money in a black bank. Good luck with that. It's still a bank. So, yeah, y'all let me know what y'all think with this. Yeah, we're gonna leave it there, y'all. We're gonna leave it there. And this concludes this broadcast with One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us, and it's a part of the new Black media. B1 choices are mandatory, and being on code is required. But never fear, because Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.